So let's find out what our guest is paying attention to. He's Walter Bettinger, Chief Executive of Charles Schwab Corporation. Walt, so nice to have you back on Nightly Business Report. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for the invitation, Susie. It's great to be here.
Let me begin by just getting your gauge on investor sentiment, because today was really nice. We had all these records on the S&P, but a week or 2 weeks ago, we had big sell-offs. What is investor sentiment like from your perspective of the Schwab clients, and where are they putting their money these days?
Well, I think the sentiment of our investors continues to be taking a long-term view and investing their portfolio based on their goals and objectives. As you indicated, Susie, just a couple of weeks ago, the headlines and many of the articles were investors selling their equity portfolios, the old sell in May and walk away for the summer type headlines. We know that timing the market is almost impossible. You got to get it right twice. You got to know when to sell and when to buy. It's just too hard for most people to do. Our clients are taking a long-term view. They've been net buyers of equities for well over a year, and we expect that to continue in the future.
It's been, Walt, a little bit of a surprising year. Bonds have basically outperformed most categories of stocks, at least so far this year, notwithstanding the recent gains. What do you say to investors when the markets confound the predictions with which we began the year?
Tyler, I think we say that's the markets. Nobody really has that crystal ball. And as I always say, the more certain a person sounds that they know what the future holds, the faster we should all run away from them. The bond market has its own life. It's clearly getting some impact by Fed decisions. And as they've made the moves, continuing to keep downward pressure on rates, for the most part, the bond market has responded this year.
Mm-hmm. You know, Walt, I was interested that just a few days ago, your colleague, Charles Schwab himself, was saying that he thought that index funds is the best way for 98% of American investors. You obviously agree with it. Tell us why, and why now? Why index funds now?
Well, as I indicated earlier with respect to market timing, it's so hard to get it right. You have to be right twice, when to get out, when to get in. And the point that Chuck was making is that for most investors, simply being in the market is a winning strategy. We've all seen studies where the market has gone up, say, 8% on average, but the typical investor's only captured about half that because they make those moves in and out. And Chuck's point was, buy the market, stay in the market, and you're likely to capture the upside gains over an extended period of time. That's the beauty of index funds, and Chuck and I have both been longtime supporters of them.
Of course, they're both very tax efficient and also inexpensive to own. Let me turn you to an industry issue. I was at the Investment Company Institute's meeting last week, and one of the concerns there is the possibility that large asset managers, and I would include Schwab in that category, might find themselves declared by financial regulators as financially significant institutions. How do you feel about that, knowing that an awful lot of your colleagues in the fund business oppose that vigorously?
Well, Tyler, I have to say, in fairness, before answering the question, that at Charles Schwab, we're already under the Federal Reserve's oversight. So we're already in a category in which the Federal Reserve plays a meaningful role in regulating our firm. I think the issue with respect to asset managers may be more than just whether the management of other people's money makes them systemically important. Most of the companies being looked at are in a variety of businesses. And although they may be known to the average person as an asset manager, they might be involved in running hedge funds, or they might be involved in holding client cash on a balance sheet. And so there's activities beyond traditional management. And my understanding is those are the areas that have particular interest to FSOC. And at this point in time, I think the best thing to do is to let that debate play itself out rather than have a strong opinion on it from Schwab's standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to wrap it up, we have about a half a minute. Any kind of advice or wisdom that you would impart to investors at this very confusing time?
Well, 7 out of 10 investors that we survey say that they're more comfortable investing when they have someone to talk about with respect to the markets. And that's what I'd encourage people today. There is no one with all the right answers, but getting assistance, getting a professional to guide you, I think in most cases is going to give you a better outcome than purely trying to do it on their own. There are people who can do it on their own, but they are few and far between.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Walt. Great talking to you as always.
Thanks, Susie. Thank you, Tyler.
Walt Bettinger, CEO of Charles Schwab.